Ladies and gentlemen across the galaxy, we gotta talk a little bit more about galactic challenges and address a concern regarding Darth Vader's rework as well as his viability, more importantly so, to Galactic Legends Ray. And to talk all about that, we got an exclusive interview with Capital Games, recorded by the Galactic War Report. Apparently yesterday, Galactic War Report reached out to Capital Games, and in mere moments, they're able to get them on the phone to talk about all the stuff we're going to highlight for you guys today. Funny how that works, Gary. I still have not heard from Capital Games to this day. So if you got the time, go to the link down below in the video description to check out the show from Galactic War Report. Great guys. I met them personally a couple years ago. Capital Games, they prefer to go to these places like Galactic War Report and Escape Podcast, but I want to make sure you guys get the information because let's be honest, the road ahead that we got, it was definitely a bit lackluster in terms of timeline, rewards, screenshots. We actually got an explanation why that's the case, why they didn't share any screenshots and timelines, and it might not be the answer you guys are quite looking for, unfortunately. And although I'm excited for the game mode, I too was kind of one that was hoping for a little bit more information, and we do get a little bit more information through this podcast, and we're going to talk about Vader towards the end. But before we do so, let's go ahead, roll out our sponsor, support the people that support this channel. We'll get right into it. That is right, Gary. It's time to talk about our sponsor today, Raid Shadow Legends. You guys know the drill. One of my favorite things to do for my Raid Shadow Legends segments is every once in a while I play a little game called Good or Food, where we go open up some shards inside of the summoning portal, and no matter if they're good or bad, you're gonna find them useful. If they're good, fantastic. You can use them for all the great events in the game, such as the Ice Golem and Spider tournaments, where you can win some awesome rewards and rare artifacts. But if they're bad, you can sacrifice them to level up your good champions. Give us an air horn, and it is going to be. We're gonna tear them into food, but if you're a beginner player, this guy actually hits pretty dang hard. Next, Sean, the Temptress. And it's gonna be good. I actually need her to build an Undead Hordes team for Faction Wars, and we got the Fencer. It's gonna be food. I already have great High Elf. She's gonna have a great use leveling up some of my other great characters. So if you want to open up some shards yourself and you're a new player looking for a game, check the links down below in the video description. And if you're a new player, you'll be getting 100,000 free silver, 2 clan boss keys, 10 mystery shards that join in on the opening fun, and 1 free champion known as the Executioner. All this treasure will be waiting for you right up here, but you gotta be quick because these rewards are only available for the next 30 days. So in case you didn't see the road ahead, what is a summary of Galactic challenges? Well, it's supposed to be scalable content that scales along with your roster, so it's accessible content for everybody to enjoy. But if you want to get more of a direct words from the developers, we'll play a little snippet from CGSB Crumb, who was on the podcast talking all about it. Then we'll talk about the timeline.
It's an event that will run, somewhere between 24 hours to a week, and there'll be kind of a special set of modifiers that will be on this event. So you'll have like a matchup on Hoth, for example, and there'll be environmental and player and enemy modifiers that could be sort of randomly generated on this thing. And there'll be about 7 tiers of difficulty. And so you'll be able to sort of scale up from if you're pretty early on in the game to if you're a many-year veteran, you'll be able to get a good challenge as you work your way up there. But that's not the only way you earn rewards and progress. There are 3 sort of like feats or challenges for each of those tiers, and those require you to sort of maybe bring in a sort of different squad or challenge yourself with a different kind of restriction. But the cool part is to play through just the regular tiers. You can bring in whatever squad you want. It's not locked. Once you have access to this event daily, you'll be able to just play it over and over and over again and no characters get locked out or anything. So you can swap up teams, you can try variants of them and really hop in there and play as much as you want.
So why didn't we get any timelines, any rewards broken down, or more importantly, at least a screenshot in the road ahead? Well, the answer to this doesn't seem like the most promising answer. They kind of, throughout this whole podcast, they kind of alluded to that it's going to show up sometime within the next 3 months. That puts us anywhere from now until September. But it seems like we shouldn't really expect this game mode to be released within the next week or 2. It sounds like it's probably more looking to August, perhaps. Again, road ahead is supposed to highlight what's going on in the next quarter. You can hear it from them, but from the interpretation I took, it seems like they didn't have the game mode really to a good state where they could take screenshots for us.
Yeah, and I'd love to share more details around like rewards and stuff like that, because I know that's something people are going to be very, very interested in knowing about. There's a few things, obviously, like the timeline and stuff, and I would have loved to put more like images and stuff in this road ahead, but unfortunately, just where we are in the development timeline, it didn't make sense to try and include those. Like, we're in the UI and stuff is stuff that kind of comes near the end of it, and making it all polished and look nice is after we've really solidified the feature and we're happy with it. But as with all road aheads, it's a roughly quarterly kind of updates. So these are within 3-ish months. So you can expect that in a rough timeline, but I can't give you anything like, hey, it's coming out on July 7th or anything like that. That's not a real date.
And of course, we kind of assumed through the road ahead that this new game mode was supposed to be something that we can play on a daily basis, but they kind of pushed this even further. It's still hard for me to grasp. Again, I wish they gave us some more information, but the way they're going to be implementing this game mode is that 30 days a month, there will always be something to do, always a puzzle every week that's special, unique, and challenging. So hopefully, but one of our concerns is that this is going to be too repetitive. It's going to end up like Galactic War, where it's going to get boring after a while of running it. It's supposed to be new, unique, and refreshing every single time with a new puzzle to kind of throw at your way to kind of grasp. Play the clip, Gary, and we'll hear what they had to say about that.
I think like we had a lot of, obviously feedback from the community on what the kind of feature they wanted to really challenge their roster was, and they wanted to be something they could use whatever they have at hand and whatever level they're at. So we wanted to make something that's sort of scalable, but part of this is also just the tools to be able to create these events at a much higher cadence, right? So like previously to build an assault battle or something like that took us a little bit of time because we had to hand create a lot of this stuff. These tools for these Galactic challenges help us create these events, so we can have, maybe 30 of these a month if that's on the crazy end of it, to maybe, a couple of week different ones that we can sort of constantly be making more and more and more of these with a lot faster tool set than we had previously. So the idea is, again, that these are swapping up constantly. It's sort of a different puzzle every time you hop into this thing, and you can try and, solve it through a whole bunch of different ways.
Now, art, we're going to talk about art briefly. It seems like they're doing an overhaul with the game in terms of moving to Unity. Now, I'm no game developer. I don't quite understand the full capacity of what Unity allows them to do. But from what I understand in the podcast, we'll probably play a couple snippets here. Right now, what they have to do, they use different tools, and they want to move to Unity, but they have all these old, outdated tools, so they have to cross-reference. The point being, they're trying to move everything over to this new program called Unity, which should allow them to do better particles, better backgrounds, better cinematics, and more polygons. They always like to talk about their art, but we know that the game is a bit behind on art, at least in my opinion. But it seems like this is going to be kind of, once they finally make this full transition to Unity, the game should start looking prettier. And the reason why they're doing this is because they're trying to invest all these resources into moving to Unity so the game can be around longer.
Yeah, I mean, the Unity upgrade, and that's probably something we'll talk about in a separate post in the future, because it is a big deal for us. And, not a lot of it's going to be like flashy day one, you're going to see all this crazy stuff. But, like new particle systems, better tools for making cinematics, but, probably more importantly, like better tools for our designers to make these characters. Like right now that, sometimes they have to use multiple programs and then cross-reference stuff between them. We want to unify that whole pipeline, and upgrading to Unity is also something we just need to do to ensure the long-term health of this game. So we've set aside a team of folks to work on that in addition to Galactic Challenges. So we know we need the content, we know we need stuff for people to do, but for the long-term health of this game and to make sure we're around for years and years to come, we've got to do some of the back-end work to make sure that not only we can react faster, but we can also just stay working, because the technology moves at an incredible pace, right? And mobile is not an exception to that. We need to keep up with the latest tech, and so we can keep going. So that's a large part of the Unity stuff. And we could talk more about how you get more polygons and all that stuff in the future post.
Kind of like how Grand Arena started, it was kind of the first iteration before we ran into Grand Arena Championships. And who knows if Grand Arena Championships will lead over to another game of some sort. But Galactic Challenges is supposed to be the foundation for what is to be moving forward into their next game modes. This is going to be the way of them testing out their new tools that Unity allows them to kind of implement these modifiers, environments, and whatnot. But it's supposed to lead into some bigger content they're working on in the future.
These building blocks enable us to do, a larger thing. And I think we mentioned at the start of the whole Road Ahead post that like this feature is kind of a nesting doll for a larger thing that we're working on in the future.
Right.
Just how Grand Arena was, rolled up into Grand Arena Championships in this larger kind of event. We want to do the same thing with this. So this is a lot of the building blocks to making sure that we can do these kind of events quickly and make them interesting, right? Like the core of it has to be an interesting challenge every time you pop into it. If it's not, then, it maybe doesn't accomplish the goal of actually giving you a place to use your roster and try and kind of push up, man, I really want to get to tier 7 on this, or I really want to do this weird feat over here. That's the kind of fun that we want to encourage, and that means we need to make sure this building block is really solid.
Now, a few more things I want to point out before we get into the Vader conversation. This is by no way related to guild. You don't need to be in a guild to access this, so that's kind of good. I think we were hoping for some more guild-related PvE content, and maybe that's what the next iteration of Galactic Challenge is supposed to be. Let's not look too far into it, but you don't need to be in a guild to be in the Galactic Challenges, but you need to be in a guild overall in Galaxy Heroes. It is impossible to progress in Galaxy Heroes without being in a guild.
Yeah, this is an individual-based thing. It doesn't require you to be in a guild or anything like that. Obviously, you know, being in a guild has other benefits than
Sure.
just, than this, but no, it's not tied to a guild adventure.
They do confirm yet again that they didn't quite staple down what level you'll be able to access Galactic Challenges, but they do keep saying that you need to do your Galactic your daily activities. Too many galactic words being thrown around here lately. You got to do your daily activities before going into this game mode. Now, they didn't talk more about this in depth. I really wish Galactic War Report pressed a bit more on this question. Hopefully, they don't require you to do 100% of your daily activities, because usually people wake up, do all their dailies up until the point of Squad Arena and the Fleet Arena attempts. So hopefully, they give us a more definitive timeline, like how many daily activities do you need to do before you get access to the Galactic Challenge of the day or of the week, whatever the case might be. And lastly, what we got to talk about is Darth Vader. Obviously, I think the most exciting thing that we've had for a long time is the Darth Vader rework, probably the biggest free-to-play thing we've seen in ages. They kind of briefly mentioned about how they wanted Vader to be really darn good. They wanted him to be, he's one of the most iconic characters. He needs to be a good character. So it seems like they aren't going to nerf Darth Vader. But they did. The question came up with Galactic Legends Raid. The Vader versus Galactic Legends Raid. They said they're monitoring it, and if it's something they're not liking, they can definitely come out and make a statement. If I had to guess, Darth Vader's not going to get nerfed from the way I heard this podcast, but it seems like at the minimum, if they do want to change that interaction between Rey and Vader, because they said they're always watching their Galactic Legends. They're babysitting them, unfortunately. They might buff Rey. They didn't say they will, but that's something I would suspect. If they didn't like how Vader's pretty competitive against Rey, they can easily just buff Rey, kind of like how they buffed Kylo, but they didn't nerf General Anakin Skywalker.
Vader is such an iconic character in Star Wars, maybe even like the most iconic character, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something people feel very strongly about, so it's definitely something we don't do lightly. We're not going to go and mess with this character that people have invested in and have teams for over time. That you know, and try and break what they're excited about. Many posts on the forums and Reddit of the same thing in their guilds, and people are getting pretty excited about that. So it was a cool opportunity to just rework one of our most like favorited characters in this whole universe. So and I think like we didn't change his identity in any major way. We didn't really like have to we got to rework one of his abilities. It makes him better at what he's already doing, and it just makes him an absolute menace. Yeah, we're aware of that, and we're always definitely paying attention to Galactic Legends and the balance around the matchups around those. So it's something we're looking at. It's something we're trying to figure out what the scale and how consistent it is. It's something we're monitoring. We may make changes in the future. I don't have any specific this is the plan or anything like that, but it's definitely something we're aware of.
All right, guys, like, comment down below, and subscribe so you're not missing a thing over here at the Galactic Empire. Gary, make sure you open up our frequency to Capital Games. They're not getting our calls for some reason, it seems like. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody.